Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate production.
Love, Growth, and Freedom with Adrian Lim Duarte. A podcast that talks about the twists and turns of life and how things are intertwined by love, growth, and freedom. Powered by Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate.
Hey guys, welcome to Love, Growth, and Freedom with Adrian Duarte. And again, welcome back to my third season. And today we are going to tackle one of the first questions that I would always have at the back of my head. Understanding why these things happen to me. This is for when you find yourself comparing. So whenever I think of, am I ever good enough? Or why don't I have what she has, or why don't I have what he has, or whatever. It's always those questions of, why can't I have whatever they have? And oftentimes I find myself comparing my progress, comparing what I have with other people, even in the slyest way. It seems like it's a thing that happens to all of us, or most of us, when we don't expect it. When things get a little dull for us, a little slow, and then we get to see the lives of other people around us, and we get to see how good they are because of social media and whatsoever that we have now. We see how the life of everybody is different from each other, and obviously in social media, people always try to show the good things and the good parts of life. So when you see that, most of us subconsciously think about, why don't I have that? What am I doing wrong with my life? That's why I'm not at his or her level of success, progress, or where it's going. And it's a question that always boggles my mind, even though it's not supposed to be happening, even though we're not supposed to be comparing apples and oranges. And we all know that each and every one of us has a pace in life that goes for us, and it's completely different for each other. So this question is, or this mind, or no, this thought of mine always comes out whenever I find myself not busy. Maybe because I get to see what's out there and I don't see what's with me. So if I'm not busy, I don't get to see what's going on with my own life. So what I try to do when I feel those thoughts, I always try to look at how far I've come. I've been trying to compare my worksheets, or not worksheets, but I've been trying to compare my past self to my current self instead, which helps me a lot because I get to focus on how I should be improving myself for myself and not for anybody else, not for anything else, not for anyone who is external or not a part of my own self. Because if I try to compare myself with others, it's gonna fail. It's not gonna end well, because everything that we compare ourselves to outside of us is not weird, but it's unreasonable, because what they have might be apples and what you have might be oranges. So it's not much of something that you should actually worry about. Let's get down to business. What do we compare? We always compare our progress, I guess, and material things, friends, and likability and personality. So for me, those are the things that I compare, and I don't know if that's what you compare, but I guess this is one of the most common things that we compare. If you've seen in social media, we've been reminded and bombarded with reminders of knowing that each and every one of us has their own pace in life, that opportunities rise up for each and every one of us at our different time, especially when we're ready, it comes to us. And with that, I think sometimes the basis of my comparison with myself and other people, I guess, would be my age and how much of I have accomplished. So with that in mind, I think it was because of the idea of success, meaning to be ingrained in us and told by adults to us that success is a linear thing, or it's something that goes up all the way. But one thing that they don't tell us about, that success is in any way, form that you want and have. So for you, success might be having a family with 2 kids and a loving husband or a wife and a white picket fence house, that could be considered successful for you. What we all should know that success is relative to each and every one of us. So, but the reason why we compare it sometimes, it's because people usually attune success with age. Like maturity comes with age, success with age. So when you're at 24, 23, and then you're doing really great, you've got your own job, you are financially stable, got your own place, that's a dream. Everybody wants that kind of success, or most of us want that kind of success. And when I see somebody like at that age, 24, having their own things, doing their own things, I feel obviously not envious, but at least a little insecure about where I'm at, because I'm 23 and that person's like a year older than me and he seems like he's gotten everything under control and I don't. But when you compare all of those, you wouldn't see the things that go underneath that. So what you see is just the tip of the iceberg, and you wouldn't know the struggles, the experiences, the emotional pain, and everything that person had to go through just to get to where he is or she is. So I guess what we should practice is that progress is different for everybody, and also success is different for everybody. So, and the reminder that success is not linear is something that we should always think about. And material things, it's obvious because we do that because sometimes you want to have the latest gadgets, the latest things, and we can't afford it, and it's okay. Some of us can't afford it because, well, we're doing our own thing. But what's important is I guess that you have to have that drive to do whatever you want, even though, you know, you can't still have those things yet. But one day you can, and you will. If you really want it, get it when you can and when you can afford it. And I don't think it's healthy for us to actually compare what we have and use material things as a status symbol of who we are and what we could be. Again, when we talked about all of those, or when we're going to talk about all of those in the next episode of self worth, these things are not supposed to be defining us or who we are. So, um, with all of that, comparing yourself to others is basically a struggle for everybody. And it, again and again, it happens to us at the slightest moment of inactivity, dullness, and whatsoever. Um, yeah. So after that is, we do that because we notice. Why do we do it? Why do we compare ourselves constantly, even though we're always reminded that everything is at our own pace, success is relative, and all of those? I believe we do it because, well, as people, we are naturally pessimistic. We always, almost always, see everything at the half empty glass. We always notice what we don't have, what we can't do, and what we're not, instead of focusing on what we could do, what we could have, and what we could improve on. So we want what we don't have as well. It's a natural thing, I guess, for people to realize that I want that because that other person has that. And if I don't have it, I feel upset about myself, or I feel like I'm not at the same level as that person. It's really just the mindset that some of the things that we compare, the success and the material things, are the one that defines our worth as a person, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's also the desire for what others have without seeing what these people have to go through to be who they are. We always, again, in this age of social media, we always see the best foot forward. Everybody puts their best foot forward in social media, shows what they look like at the best of their moments. And if they try to show themselves to you, they made sure that they don't have acne or whatever. And some people are brave enough to just go with showing themselves bare, all face, nothing else, not even working out, just, just who they are and what they do. And that's okay, and that's beautiful because their self-worth is anchored on who they are and not what they bring to the table. So what we all have to realize that each and every one of us has struggled to be where we are today. Each and every one of us has learned our lessons in the hardest way, and probably the easiest way or the hardest way or whatever. In every way that we could, we underwent challenges, we underwent pressure to become the diamond that we are today. So instead of focusing what we don't have, maybe we should focus inward and see what we could do and make ourselves better for other people and for yourself as well. But focusing your energy inwards, seeing what you can do with yourself and the things that you have would greatly help you in growing more to be the person that you're meant to be and the person that you're going to be at the end of this journey, what we call life. And, we all know that life ends at death. That kind of life, that material and physical life ends at death. So might as well make your life here worthwhile. Touch as many hearts, learn as much as you can, and try to leave a mark. Even in the smallest of places, you could leave a mark of who you are, the true essence of your life. I guess that's the reason why I'm doing this podcast, is to immortalize my thoughts, immortalize this idea of love, growth, and freedom. But before we continue on to that, if you guys want to check out new podcasts to listen to, you can go to gorillapodcastsyndicate.com.ph or .com.au. They have a list of great Filipino podcasters over there that you could listen to as well. And yeah, so I'll see you in a minute.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back, lovies. So I've been telling you of the things that we could do, right? I've been telling you of the things that we could focus on when we're trying to compare ourselves. And I've written a few things down to help you notice when you're comparing yourself. I guess the hardest thing about comparing ourselves to others is that we don't notice is when it starts. And what we have to know that these comparisons start in little waves, and then it goes developing into bigger waves and crazier waves that take over your mind and actually incapacitate you to do things that you want to do, just because it has turned into a deeper version of greed and envy and whatsoever. So yeah, in my case, if I would share to you a more personal experience of comparing myself to others, is that when I see someone on Instagram and then I realize that, oh my goodness, we're at the same age, and look at where he's at, or look at what she's doing, where she's at. She's been traveling to places, she's been going to malls, she can buy her own stuff, she can buy this and that, and I'm like, oh, this is me, I'm a 23, and what can I do? And there's nothing significant in my life and whatsoever. But some things knock into my senses and say, you've got everything that you need. You've got a family that supports you, you've got a roof over your head, you've got people who listen to your podcast, you've got people to do this. It may not be big, but it is something. It's not worthless, and that's bad. It feels like you want to covet somebody else's things. And so it starts like that. It starts with little by little, when you see their stories, when you see their posts, and you say, oh, I want to be like them. It's not bad to idolize and admire where they come from and where they've been and where they are going, but it's difficult because when you keep on looking at those kinds of life, you would look into yours and see a half empty glass rather than a half full glass, rather than seeing of the things that you have and the things that who you are, or the things that make up who you are. So yeah, we always often do that. And another example would be, I guess I've always been wired to actually want material success. Not want, but crave for material success. I was trying to actually have a nice roof over my head, a nice paying job, a good family, and whatever. But yeah, now that I think of it, I'm happy with where I am right now, and that's still a goal, but it's not something that makes me want to covet somebody else's or cheat my way up there. I'm glad with the opportunities that has been presented up in front of me, and I've been working on a specific goal ever since, and it's been working really well. And there are some instances in my past where I had unknowingly belittled some jobs because it's not the job that I wanted, or it's not a job that I see me getting there, or not a job that I could see. that helps bring me closer to my goal. So it's really, sometimes all of these are internally, and you wouldn't notice how you're belittling somebody else's job just because it's not your job, or it's not the job that you want. For example, you want to be a lawyer, and you're like, oh, I only want to be a lawyer because it's gonna get me there. That's my dream. It's gonna get me there. And then sometimes, and what if that thing, being a lawyer, isn't for you yet or now? And then and they would tell you that you have to work somewhere else first and do this, and you're like, no, I don't want to work as, like, I don't want to work as a whatever, or somebody else, or another job, because you don't seem that job fits you because it's lower than being a lawyer. You know what I mean? So sometimes when we do those, when we compare ourselves, you don't realize that what we have now is somebody else's treasure. So yeah, another man's trash is another man's treasure, or another woman's trash is another woman's treasure, another human's treasure. Okay, so you really have to be careful of over comparing. Comparing is nice when you just want to see how you've like managed to get far, but I guess the best way to compare yourself is you compare yourself with yourself and your own progress, rather than with other people's report cards. So what we could do is catch how you compare yourself to others. One is you catch it. You try to realize if you have been over comparing yourself, or you've been comparing yourself with that certain person or that certain thing, and what kind of thing. Do you compare your status, your circle of friends, your personality, your material things, your likability, your confidence, and everything? If you come down those roads and keep doing that over and over again, and then suddenly you are consumed with just comparing yourself and self-pity and whatever, you are bound to actually just stay there in that hole that you dug yourself up in. So get up and try to realize and look at your own cup, which is really half full. Look at yourself for who you are, understand yourself for who you are. These things that you have now does not define you, but how you treat people, how you are, and how you deal with your own emotions and your thoughts, and what you are exactly and essentially is something that you should be working on. Once you've caught yourself, once you've caught yourself, or once you catch how you do it, once you've caught how you do it, try to look at the bigger picture and acknowledge each of our experiences. These experiences that we encounter are very different from each other and have presented in a very different way and varying ways for each other. So realize and understand that when you compare yourself with their success, their progress, their family, their friends, their likability, and everything, you have to realize that these little things that happen just to attain those are something that you're not going to get because that's not what you experience. And this would force you to reflect down on how you have gained your circle of friends, how you have had your family loving you, and how you have reached your status. You realize that these experiences, if you try to compare it with others, it will always be different. And a better way to explain that is that when you're taking an exam, there's a type A and type B for each and every one of you, and a different type of exam for each and every one of you. So these things that happened and those things that you want to compare with are completely different. The answers are different on how they get there and how they do it. So notice that we are comparing apples and oranges, so you might have to like rein down a little bit on comparing. Write down or note down 5 things to be true about yourself. So since we are done realizing that we've been comparing, we've been understanding that each and every one of us has a different experience, write them down. I think this is the best way that I do it is I sit with myself for a while and let that feeling or let these things sink in. I have to think of 5 real things about myself, 5 good facts. I would say I'm a great preschool teacher. I am a great son. I'm a podcaster. I live in a nice house, and I do what I love to do. So those are the 5 things that's real about me now. So I let that sink in. I let that I let that float away and say, yeah, okay, those are the things that what I can do now, what I am now. And then probably those other people have different truths to say when you ask them to do that. So you realize when you think about yourself and see yourself for who you are, you get to dumb, no, not dumb down, trim down on all the ways that you compare yourself to others. Because we all know that everything is, again, different for each and every one of us. You'll realize it's not so bad for you, and your and clears your perspective. So it really clears up a lot of things. And yeah, I hope that could help. So these are the things that I ask you to do if you want to try to stop comparing yourself to others, because each and every one, again, is always on a different path, and how we get there is based on how we see things and perceive things. So we are never going to be in each and everybody's heads. Even if you're a mind reader, dude, you won't know how that person would actually choose or make that decision without you trying to, change its course. So everything is as unpredictable and varying and different as the stars in the universe, and as how different our fingertips are. So yeah, if you always get to all these, my last tip here is go back to your whys. So if you are feeling a little down and you've compared yourself too much, and you have been in that area of self-pity, and sometimes you think about, why am I doing this? What am I, or whatever I'm doing, is whatever I'm doing great, good, or at par with a lot of people around me? I think you should always have to go back to your why. So why you're living your life, why are you doing this for anybody, or for the things that you want to do, why are you doing them? It helps you remember your vision and mission for your own life. It helps you take back the reins. It helps you ride that big red car, like the Wiggles would say, choo choo chugga chugga big red car. We'll travel near and we travel far. So yeah, those are the things that help me. And when I remember why I'm doing my podcast, even when I try to, I can't stop comparing myself, obviously, to other podcasters. I can't stop wondering what I could do better, which is good. And sometimes when I over compare, I'd always say, what is that thing that they're doing that I'm not understanding and not doing? How could I do that? Why can't I be like that? Why can't I be as confident as they are? Whenever I always have those thoughts about my podcast, my content creation, I always go down to the reasons why I'm doing it. And it absolutely helps me clear my mind, my path, and my vision for my own podcast and everything. And, the vision for Love, Growth, and Freedom is to be a place where people could listen and feel like they've been heard and understood, and, try to be a light to people who are struggling with the things that they're thinking about. Because in my head, a lot of things are deep and dark and scary. And doing this podcast makes it easier for me to process and shed a light on that. So if that way of processing things could help someone out there, one or two people, would be great for me now. And, that brings me back to also my content creation as well. And Instagram, why I would always be jealous of other people getting what they could do, Prad, whatever, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, most of the things that happen to me and compare myself to, I would always go back to the whys. And I do it for me and for the people who also struggle with the same things. And I do it to improve myself. I do it to constantly speak about growth and change and understanding and pushing for self-compassion for everybody. So yeah, that is why I do Love, Growth, and Freedom. So I made a quote here. So the differences between each and every one of us is one of the things that connect us. So I guess even though we all have this idea of, what do you call that? Idea of like life and how it should be and how everything in our experiences are different, we somehow go back to like the little things that we want in life, and somehow this is the one that connects us. For example, comparing yourself to others. It is different for everybody, but it's one thing that most of us can't stop doing. So again, that's the end of my podcast. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate your time here. If you want to listen more, again, you could listen to me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube, and so many more. Yeah. Bye, lovies. I'll see you
If you
soon.
enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or via RSS. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And if you want to know more, check out www.guerrillapodcast.com.au or guerrillapodcast.com.ph. A Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate production.